It's time for the Phil Ferguson Show.
All right, everybody, welcome. This, of course, is Phil Ferguson, and you are listening to the cleverly titled Phil Ferguson Show. It's a special double bonus show today because I have two interviews, and for those who really love the investing skeptically stuff, I just got too much for one show already. A little later on in the show, we're going to hear about the Secular Student Alliance, so you're going to want to hang out to hear about all the wonderful things that they're doing. And now I'm going to talk to Nick Little. He is an attorney, staff attorney with CFI. Do I have the right title, Nick?
Actually, I'm General Counsel.
CFI. General Counsel. And the listeners may pick up a little bit of an accent. And you were just telling me before we started that you were watching some kind of game.
Yes, the England-Croatia game, unfortunately. So I promised to try and behave myself and not break down into tears in the middle of this.
Well, based only on your commentary, I'm assuming England lost this game?
England did indeed lose the World Cup semi-final.
And was it just, gosh darn, in the end, they just barely didn't make it, or did they have problems?
It was a pretty typical performance that England are used to, that we raise hopes and then shatter them. So 49 years I've been English, and I'm used to this by now.
Well, does that mean that the soccer hooligans don't riot with a loss?
I'm honestly not certain anymore. I'm not sure they'll do anything with the Russian police around, because they tend not to mess around on things at all. But no, unfortunately, they seem to riot just as much with a loss as with a win.
Oh, my goodness. Well, I'm sure we could talk. Well, you could talk about soccer all day. I would get bored. Mm-hmm. But we're here to talk about something that is way more fun, for me at least, and maybe some fun for you because it's kind of your job and you get paid to do this, which is really cool. As we said, you are the general counsel for Center for Inquiry, CFI, which, by the way, the conference is coming up in October. Is that right?
Coming up in October in Vegas. Yep, we'd love to see everybody there. And if you go online to CFI or to CSI, the Committee for Skeptical Inquiry, you can sign up for the conference. And I promise I will be speaking there as well.
Oh, how delightful. I've already got my tickets and reservations. And matter of fact,
great.
My wife and I are probably going to do is go to CSI Con, and then we're going to fly up to Seattle and spend a week and a half working down the coast to get to the FFRF convention in San Francisco 2 weeks later.
That sounds like a plan. Do you need company on it?
Maybe someone to carry my bags, you mean?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, it's ironic because Seattle, Washington, and Oregon, I think, are the only two contiguous United States I've not been in. So we're going to solve that crisis.
Good.
Well, CFI has taken this step, and I'm assuming you had a lot to do with it. CFI is suing CVS, the giant American pharmaceutical company, right?
Yes, correct.
And go ahead.
Sorry, go on. No, I mean, this is something we have been looking at. I have been with CFI for almost 5 years, and pretty much my first day in the job, we started talking about this, not with CVS specifically, but trying to work out how we could bring a lawsuit based on the consumer fraud that is homeopathy. And we finally worked out how to do it, and here we are.
Well, it hasn't got as much international or national news attraction. I think Pathos, Hemant Mehta has covered it. You have a story featured in Gizmodo, which, is nice. A lot of people will read that, but I want MSNBC and Fox News and ABC and all these guys to cover this. So maybe they'll hear it here and get excited. What do you think?
I hope so. I mean, for me, it's a consumer interest story. It's a public interest story on this. We're doing, if we didn't have the non-religious side, I would say we were doing God's work here. But, we're suing on behalf of the general public of the District of Columbia, and suing under D.C. law, consumer protection law. And it's a David against Goliath story. I mean, CVS is number 7 on the Fortune 500 list.
Well,
so their resources are a little bit larger than ours.
Clearly, their resources are bigger. And again, with the case, and we're going to talk some details here in a few minutes, but I would love, if nothing else, this gets in the media and CVS gets embarrassed. And this is a company that I know at some point has to care at least a little because they stopped selling cigarettes. I'm sure you're aware of that.
Absolutely. I have a CVS store that is literally half a block from my house, and I have a habit of working late at night, and I admit to enjoying a cigarette now and again, and I would go to the store late at night if I had run out of cigarettes, and suddenly they stopped selling them. And they stopped selling them for a very good reason, that they pride themselves as being a part of the healthcare decisions and the health plans of their customers. And they felt it was incompatible to carry on selling tobacco products as they did that. And good on them. That's great. So it's one of the reasons we chose CVS as a plaintiff on this, is the idea that they do put themselves out there as being part of a partner in health choices for customers. And we want them to be as responsible when it comes to homeopathy as they were responsible with tobacco.
I really love it. And I was excited. I got the little email alert because I get those from CFI, like everyone should sign up to get those. And I thought, oh my, this is nice. And in prepping for the interview, I got the actual official 28-page court document, the formal complaint, the official complaint. And may I say, this is a thing of beauty.
Thank you.
I'm very, very happy reading this.
I specifically tried to write it so that non-lawyers could read it and understand it. And obviously there's going to be a degree of legal terminology because that's the nature of the beast. But the key point is that homeopathy is dumb. And that's the key point I was trying to make through this. It's just dumb.
Well, I don't know if you plan to, but I might at some future point update my talk on homeopathy, which listeners, if you ever want someone to come talk about homeopathy, hit me up. I can go to your conference. But this has some beautiful stuff that I could add to the talk I've been using for years. And point number 1, under the section nature of the case, I'm just going to read a little, I guess this is a sentence. Defendants use marketing, labeling, product placement to falsely present homeopathic products as equivalent alternatives to science-based medicines and to represent homeopathic products as effective treatments for specific diseases and symptoms. That sounds pretty clear.
I think this is a very clear situation what we have here, and I even put photos in the complaint.
I saw.
When you walk into a CVS store, there will be a big sign hanging there which says what is in a particular aisle, and it'll say pain relief or it'll say cold and flu, which I don't think I'm going out on a limb if I'm saying that something underneath a sign which says cold and flu in a drugstore is being represented as being a treatment for cold and flu.
I think that is the obvious signing intent, and that is the obvious understanding for the customer. And you touched on a couple of my personal longtime favorites in the flu section or the pain relief section. You talk about ossicillium. You want to tell us about that a little bit?
Yeah, ossicillium is the poster child of homeopathic inanity. It is marketed as a treatment for the symptoms of flu, despite absolutely no credible evidence that suggests it does anything to it. And it's not surprising there's no evidence for it. Oxalium is made, if you go back far enough, from the heart and the liver of a particular type of duck, the Muscovy duck. And then, like homeopathic remedies, it's diluted down with this nonsense idea that the more you dilute it, the stronger it gets. And this is diluted to a level of 10 to the power of 400. So, to put that number into a degree of perspective, because the human brain can't really think of a number as big as 10 to the power of 400. In current estimates of the known universe suggest that there are 10 to the power of 80 atoms in the entire universe. So for there, at a dilution of 10 to the power of 400, for there to be one atom of the original substance, which, let's remember, is the heart and liver of a duck, for there to be one atom of that substance, you would need a pill, I believe, and I apologize if my math is off here, the size of 320 universes.
Well,
for there to be a chance of a single atom in there.
I think it's much worse than that, by the way.
It could well be, and I apologize if my I am not a mathematician,
well,
which is fortunate.
You've proved your point because of not understanding things of this scale, and I know you did that on purpose, pretending that you didn't understand, just for the listeners. So the universe, now the number of atoms is 10 to the power of 82, assuming that the amount of space needed to hold all those atoms is the universe, which obviously is not true at the time of the Big Bang. But the oxalium is diluted to 10 to the power of 400, which is 32 big, or 320 bigger. It's 320 more power, which, listeners, what that means is there's 320 additional zeros.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so it's not 320 times bigger. Each zero is 10 times bigger. So it's 10, 100, 1,000, 10,000, 100,000, million. And you keep doing that until you add 320 zeros. And so that is a scale of, I don't know, a gazillion, trillion gazillion, almost a Googleplex of universes. It's comically ridiculous
exactly
how they think that this is done. And that's one of the things I did with my PowerPoint presentation, was to show the scale with water. Is there's a teaspoon and a gallon jug and a pool and Lake Michigan, and then all the oceans, the entire Earth, the entire universe. It's crazy. And this doesn't cure flu or symptoms, but it helps treat them. And that's at least their claim, relieve the symptoms of. And CVS has it on a shelf next to what?
And next to science-based medicines, next to, for example, Tylenol, flu, and sinus, which has been demonstrated to reduce the severity of the symptoms of flu. And they are next to each other on the shelf. There is no signage. There is nothing suggesting that these are not equivalent ways to treat your cold and flu symptoms.
And so not only is the science-based medicine often, I don't know about every single item, but often they're shown to work. They're approved by the FDA. Homeopathic products pride themselves in not being approved or endorsed by the FDA, and not only have not been shown to work, homeopathic treatments have been shown not to work. Is that a fair statement?
Exactly. And to be fair to them, we do have to admit that sometimes there is a demonstrable effect, but it is no greater. It has never been shown to be greater than that of a placebo in the situation.
Fair enough. And you made that clear because you don't want to overplay your hand. But since I'm not going to court, I will take a more dramatic stance to say that homeopathic has not only been shown not to work, it cannot work. It's comically, ridiculously, inanely, stupidly fallacious. It's just, I can't even believe that this stuff exists. And one of the points later on is you use the phrase of something like CVS either knew or should know that these products can't work.
Yes. If homeopathy works as homeopaths suggest, then everything we understand about chemistry and physics is wrong.
Absolutely. And you have all these citations from the FDA, the FTC, you have British National Health Service, NHS, you have Australian Health Services, which have done comprehensive studies and declared that this stuff can't work, doesn't work, or, like you said, is no better than placebo. But why would CVS sell this stuff then?
They make money from it.
Well, that's a very simple answer. I mean, you got cut right to the chase.
It is. They make money from it. And CVS's response at every stage so far has been, this product is legal.
Yeah.
And they're right.
But so are cigarettes.
Are legal. Yeah, we honestly, I'd like to see the FDA, I'd like to see the FTC properly enforce their rules against this and clamp down properly on this. But we are facing a situation at the moment where homeopathics are legal to sell in the United States, and they're legal to sell over the counter in the United States. I don't think CVS as a company, even forgetting this lawsuit, I don't think CVS as a company should limit itself to, well, we're allowed to do it, therefore we have no further responsibility.
Yeah, I think that's
sorry.
No, you're right. It's a terrible response.
But fortunately, the D.C. law does go further than that. Just because something is legal to sell doesn't mean you can sell it in any way you want to sell it. You have to be honest when you sell it. You cannot provide false information when you're selling it. And what CVS are doing is like taking a 1970s Ford Pinto and claiming it's a Mercedes.
Yeah.
And that's fraudulent.
Well, so you have the obvious misrepresentation, and I think you had 3 points of why this is a problem. One, it doesn't work. 2, it can be harmful. And 3, it's maybe misleading. I may have stated that wrong. Correct me here at any point.
Well, the 3 harms that we maintain homeopathy does is, first, it's taking money out of your pocket. People are spending money on something that just doesn't work. They're paying $18 for their Arnicare arthritis cream or whatever, and it's snake oil. It does nothing. The second, and these are actually the saddest, in some way the saddest situations, are the manufacturing quality of homeopathic products isn't necessarily always the best. It's not tested. And there were situations with childhood teething products, homeopathic teething remedies, that the allegedly active ingredient was belladonna, or, as it's more commonly called, deadly nightshade. And it's called deadly nightshade for a reason. This is a poison.
It's in the name.
And people were giving this to kids. And the trouble is, the level of belladonna in the alleged remedy was far higher than it said was meant to be, and so kids got sick on this. Kids were badly harmed by it. But the third way that homeopathy harms people is that people take it rather than real medicine. And again, it's particularly harmful when it comes to children on that, because children don't make the decision. And I remember when my son, just after college now, my son, when he was an infant, when he was a toddler, and he would get ear infections, and the pain that a child suffers during an ear infection. And so what do we do as parents? We go to the doctor, we get an antibiotic, and it reduces the length of the ear infection, and it treats it. If instead you're just putting homeopathic drops, such as those sold by CVS, under their own label, if you're just putting homeopathic drops in your kid's ear, your kid is going to suffer for longer and may even suffer long-term or permanent hearing damage as a result of this. So the 3 harms, to sum up on that, are you're being ripped off financially, the product itself may be tainted, and you're not taking medicine that could actually cure you, because instead you're taking this snake oil.
Oh, that's just an amazing case. And one of my other favorites, ironically, is this eardrops that you mentioned. And it's from, I'm not going to say the name of the company, but it's a big company that makes a lot of homeopathic stuff. And when I talked about this specific product before, it has, on the bottle, effects may take several days. Symptoms may not be diminished for a couple of days. And so in those couple of days, if you're the parent who doesn't really understand what homeopathy is, and your kid's ears get more and more painful, you keep giving them nothing to treat it.
Right.
It's just a liquid. And the best case result is that it's technically per se harmless in and of itself, and you're not getting proper treatment, which is bad enough. But you point out here that there was 11,000, I think it was 11,000 cases, 10,311 cases in 2012 where people were exposed to foreign agents, I'll call them, things that weren't even supposed to be in the medicine or the fake medicine.
Absolutely. And this is something we would love the FDA to really, really take notice of, the Food and Drug Administration, and start going to the facilities where these products are made and adequately, enforcing safety standards and product purity standards on this. Unfortunately, the FDA has not adequately regulated homeopathy. We wish they would. The homeopaths have a very successful lobbying arm up on Capitol Hill and have done for decades, which has avoided proper regulation of homeopathy. So if the government isn't going to do its job that way, if the federal government isn't doing its job that way, organizations like CFI need to step in and protect the consumer from it, and that's what we're trying to do.
Oh, it's absolutely amazing. And I'm just looking through, again, I made a few notes here that, all this fake stuff. You have ear infection treatments, you have duck liver, and then, you have a medicine that's for colds, and it's got 1 to 7 or 8 different things that aren't in it because the dilution levels are so high that if it's done correctly, there's actually no product in it whatsoever. Did you have in here how big this business is? Is it billions of dollars?
In the United States, it's very hard to find exact numbers on this, but an estimate from The Economist magazine in 2014, and I believe this is probably on the low end because The Economist does tend towards small c conservative, $3 billion a year spent by Americans on over-the-counter homeopathic products. I think it is very likely that number is higher now than it was 4 years ago.
Oh, I'm sure. Another point in the official document here, now, not only are these medicines, or not only are these homeopathic bullshit non-medicines placed on the shelf in the store by actual legitimate products, they're grouped together online. And you even put the path here so anyone that reads this can see the path. It's health and medicine, cold, cough, and flu, cold cough for children, and then there's homeopathic cough syrup that doesn't have the prime ingredient in it, and we're probably pretty happy for that. Is that one of those ones that has a lot of alcohol, too, on top of it? Do you know?
It may well be. Honestly, I don't want to tell you yes without knowing the facts on that, but a lot of the products do. I mean, there's, for example, a CVS sells a homeopathic laxative liquid that is 20% alcohol.
And so that's 40 proof. That's half the strength?
Half whiskey. Yes.
Yeah.
So a bottle of that is like drinking half a bottle of Jack Daniels. And they used to sell this to kids. I believe they now do card for it, at least.
Well, that's nice. So you're suing in the District of Columbia because you have a presence there, which gives you standing. Yeah. And you also have a very specific law that details that it's not just being legal that you can sell it, but you have to not make any false representations. And part of the argument is that by the placement in the store, the placement online, the signage, the locations, all that leads people to believe that this stuff can do things that it is not possible for it to do. Am I getting the gist of this?
Absolutely. And what I would suggest your listeners do on this is go to CVS's webpage and type into the search box 2 words. Type in flu treatment. And then on that first page, Oscillococcinum comes up, and also this product called Natura Bio Children's Cold and Flu Liquid come up on the first page. You cannot tell me that if a customer searches on your website for flu treatment and you recommend a homeopathic product, that you are not claiming that that product is a treatment for flu.
Yeah, I think that's pretty compelling. And of course, you're asking, you're not going to, are you maybe? Let me ask, are you demanding that CVS doesn't sell these products?
Much as I wish I had that power, I do not. These products are legal. It would require something an awful lot more than a DC court is allowed to do to stop them selling the product. What we are asking for, we are asking the court to take whatever steps it sees as fit to prevent the ongoing violation. So in other words, to stop CVS continuing to make these false claims about the product. Now, one way of doing that, absolutely, is CVS stopping selling these products. Alternatively, CVS could move them from being next to real medicine and put them in a special aisle of their own. They could label the aisle homeopathy, or they could just label the aisle come here to be ripped off by things that don't work. But if they labeled it homeopathy, and if they displayed an explanation of what homeopathy is, and the FTC has recently suggested, in October 2016, they suggested a warning that can be used in this that says, that basically doctors don't agree with this, there's no evidence that this works, and it's based on theories from the 1700s. So if CVS were to set up we would love the court to turn around to CVS and say, if you are going to continue selling these products, you need to separate them out and you need to warn customers what they are buying.
Well, and of course, that would create a marvelous precedence for other companies. There's another big pharmacy company whose name starts with Walgreens that does a similar kind of activity. However, in that kind of ruling, it might not affect, I don't know if you have on the East Coast, Whole Foods.
Whole Foods would be interesting on this because Whole Foods sells an awful lot of homeopathic nonsense.
Well, they do,
as well as other kinds of nonsense.
And they don't sell any actual medicine. I went in once with a cold and tried to buy some Tylenol or a Robitussin, and they proudly proclaim that they don't have that evil stuff. So there's no confusion there that this is like, but I don't know. That would be a harder argument. Clearly, CVS has positioned themselves as a place to get health information, health products, health services, and they're putting things that cannot work, my opinion, cannot work next to things that have been shown to work. And there is a really reasonable assumption that the average consumer is going to be confused by this.
I consider myself an educated, intelligent person. Before I started this job, I bought homeopathic products. I didn't know what homeopathy was, and I labored under and this was me, I was a lawyer at a big firm in D.C.
Yeah.
I labored under the illusion that they could not be sold in CVS if there was nothing to them.
But apparently there's no such rule.
I feel an idiot after this. But I have a photo of the pain relief aisle in front of me, and I'm going from Advil to ibuprofen to the double pack of ibuprofen to arthritin to then Arnicare arthritis to then arthritis pain relief, then to Tylenol 8. It's in the middle. There is nothing on the shelf, nothing that suggests Arnicare is any different than those other products.
Yeah, that's staggering. I happen to have known about homeopathy for a long time, but a lot of people don't even know the word. They just might buy it, and you have pictures of some of these bottles or some of the packaging in the back, and they intentionally design the artwork to look just like legitimate medicines. I mean,
yep.
And they even call the stuff that's not in there active ingredients. It's
right. That amazes me. It's like, okay, let's start testing some of these products. And if there is a laboratory in the world that can find duck liver in ossicilium, I'll be amazed.
You'll eat your hat, as they might say.
Absolutely.
Well, and the thing is, homeopathy, like a lot of natural supplements, to my knowledge, fall outside of food regulation and they fall outside of drug regulation because, like you said, the lobbyists have made convenient arguments for themselves, and they're getting ripped off. There's no way to know that what's in it isn't something else and can harm you or create an allergic reaction. And then you delay actual proper medical treatment for something that could be serious or could become serious. So it's kind of a triple whammy. And I think this stuff, I think CVS shouldn't sell it. And if they go to the defense that they don't know that it's bad or that it doesn't work, they have to undermine their entire position for existing as providing health information for their clients.
Exactly. They can't have it both ways. Either they don't know that they're selling absolute junk in their stores, or they know it and they don't care that their consumers are buying complete junk. I don't think CVS comes out particularly well either way out of that.
I don't think they do, and I think this is a little convenient ignorance because they can make a lot of money and these things have high margins. And you don't know this, and some of my listeners might. For several years, I audited pharmaceutical companies like CVS and Walgreens and would help them collect money from manufacturers. The margins on this stuff is high. Walgreens and CVS and everyone else makes a lot of money.
I have no doubt. And it's one of the reasons I'm actually looking forward to this case getting to discovery. Because then I can start asking CVS questions about their profit margins, and I am looking forward to doing that.
Yeah, clearly there's there's an old saying, it's hard to convince somebody of something that's not true when their income depends on it, and this is what we have here. CVS makes a lot of money selling crap, just like the people who produce the crap, and in the end, the consumer is out the money, at risk from being poisoned, and delays actual medical treatment. And you mentioned the eardrops. You also have mentioned asthma medicine. And I don't know if you knew this, but there's also homeopathic treatment for things like, malaria and radiation poisoning. It's obscene.
It really is. I honestly do not know how these people who manufacture this look at themselves in the mirror in the morning.
Well, I'm sure some are sociopathic, and then there's others that have, for whatever reason, bought into the bullshit. And this is stuff that CFI and CSI deals with all the time. Humans are pretty good at tricking ourselves and believing things that are true, but the scientific method works and shows that these do not work.
Absolutely. I actually got a very amusing thing out of this when I mentioned on my Facebook page I was doing this. Of course, you get the friend who's like, well, I take a homeopathic remedy and it works perfectly for me. And we go back and forth. And it turns out it was actually an herbal remedy for heartburn. So when I just say at the end, well, you do realize that's not homeopathy, don't you? He was like, oh, okay, yes. And there is this failure to understand out there what homeopathy is, because the companies and the retailers don't have to tell people.
Yeah, it's not in their best interest.
If they told people what was in it, or more importantly, what isn't in it, nobody would buy it. And they even put on the packaging, when they do list the active ingredient, they list it in Latin, because the liver of a duck would sound ridiculous if you were trying to cure the flu.
Yeah, it's comically bad, but they're making a fortune. And matter of fact, the box of ossicilium It has 6 little teeny pills in a little teeny container in this big box. And I was amused by the picture you included because the cover says 6 tablets and it has a picture of 5 tablets. Just a counting error. But it has been around for a long time. And look, there's a coupon on this one. You can save $2. But it clearly needs to go away. If anyone is listening and wants you to present on this, or maybe a different podcaster is listening, wants to talk to you, how can they reach you to get you on their show or at their conference?
They can reach me through CFI, or via email is always a good way to get in touch with me. My email address is nlittle@centerforinquiry.org.
Well, Nick, I appreciate your time. Have we forgotten any key parts of this that we didn't cover?
I don't think so yet. Hopefully we'll be talking again when CVS has come begging us to settle on this. We'll see what happens next.
I look forward to that. So if anything happens, let me know right away, and we'll update.
Absolutely will do.
Update both of my listeners. And then, of course, in October, I will see you in Las Vegas, and I've been promoting the conference for weeks now, so hopefully some more of my listeners go as well. Nick, thank you for what you do, and thank you for being part of this and writing such a easy, I kid you not, easy to read official complaint. I thank you so much for being on The Phil Ferguson Show.
Thank you very much, Phil. Have a great day.
I'm sorry, but I don't want to be an emperor. That's not my business. I don't want to rule or conquer anyone. I should like to help everyone if possible. Jew, Gentile, black man, white. We all want to help one another. Human beings are like that. We want to live by each other's happiness, not by each other's misery. We don't want to hate and despise one another. In this world, there's room for everyone, and the good earth is rich and can provide for everyone. The way of life can be free and beautiful, but we have lost the way. Greed has poisoned men's souls, has barricaded the world with hate, has goose-stepped us into misery and bloodshed. We have developed speed, but we have shut ourselves in. Machinery that gives abundance has left us in want. Our knowledge has made us cynical, our cleverness hard and unkind. We think too much and feel too little. More than machinery, we need humanity. More than cleverness, we need kindness and gentleness. Without these qualities, life will be violent, and all will be lost. The aeroplane and the radio have brought us closer together. The very nature of these inventions cries out for the goodness in men, cries out for universal brotherhood, for the unity of us all. Even now, my voice is reaching millions throughout the world, millions of despairing men, women, and little children, victims of a system that makes men torture and imprison innocent people. To those who can hear me, I say, do not despair. The misery that is now upon us is but the passing of greed, the bitterness of men who fear the way of human progress. The hate of men will pass, and dictators die, and the power they took from the people will return to the people. And so long as men die, liberty will never perish. Soldiers, don't give yourselves to brutes, men who despise you, enslave you, who regiment your lives, tell you what to do, what to think, and what to feel, who drill you, diet you, treat you like cattle, use you as cannon fodder. Don't give yourselves to these unnatural men with machine minds and machine hearts. You are not machines. You are not cattle. You are men. You have the love of humanity in your hearts. You don't hate. Only the unloved hate. The unloved and the unnatural. Soldiers, don't fight for slavery. Fight for liberty. In the 17th chapter of St. Luke it is written, the kingdom of God is within man, not one man nor a group of men, but in all men, in you. You, the people, have the power to create machines, the power to create happiness. You, the people, have the power to make this life free and beautiful, to make this life a wonderful adventure. Then in the name of democracy, let us use that power. Let us all unite. Let us fight for a new world, a decent world, that will give men a chance to work, that will give youth a future and old age a security. By the promise of these things, brutes have risen to power, but they lie. They do not fulfill that promise. They never will. Dictators free themselves, but they enslave the people. Now let us fight to fulfill that promise. Let us fight to free the world, to do away with national barriers, to do away with greed, with hate and intolerance. Let us fight for a world of reason, a world where science and progress will lead to all men's happiness. Soldiers, in the name of democracy, let us all unite!
Jesus. You're listening to The Phil Ferguson Show.
Welcome back, everybody. Today we have, of course, another special guest. It's Kevin Bolling from the Secular Student Alliance. Kevin, how are you?
I'm doing well, Phil. Thank you very much for having me on.
I did notice that I did talk to you about a year ago, right when you took the job. How is it going?
That would have been about a year ago. Things are going really well. So there's been, I think, a lot of change with the Secular Student Alliance over the past year, and we're really looking forward to a good fall semester. So we've had some great internal growth with our student organizations, and beginning of this calendar year, we've had some really great sort of expansion on new campuses. And so this upcoming fall semester, we're taking the summer and sort of planning ahead and really looking at capitalizing on that.
Now, what is your official title at the Secular Student Alliance?
I am the executive director.
Excellent. And you moved the office from Ohio to somewhere in California, is that right?
Correct. We're in Los Angeles now. And so the board of directors, probably about 5 years before I started with the organization, began having conversations about moving the office. And so one of sort of my first charges with the organization was moving the office. So we did that in October of 2017. And
what perks and benefits do you get by being in LA?
Sure. Well, I think Los Angeles has sort of a larger secular community. So there's a lot of organizations for us to sort of work with in the local area. So that's sort of nice for us. And we have some of the national organizations who have chapters in the area. So again, some individual contact. We also, a lot of our chapters are in California, so it's a large state, and so that is sort of a nice thing for us. And a good percentage of our high school groups are also in California, so that's nice. And another thing for all of our chapters across the country is, East Coast, sort of Central, and then California time, when sort of students are done with classes and and sort of are looking to talk with us, we're still in the office, and so hopefully that communication with them is a lot easier. So we're, when they want to talk, we're in the office and can facilitate that rather quickly. So that's been a nice thing as well.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, definitely. And Southern California has a lot of opportunities and a lot of resources for nonprofits. And so sort of being here in the area, that's a great thing for us to take advantage as well.
I like it. So you mentioned high schools. That's always been a fascination of mine. Do you happen to have a number of high school chapters that you have now?
We're just over 24 high school chapters. I don't know the exact number off the top of my head, but just over 24. And so we've seen some definite interest, and we've had some additional contacts sort of the end of the school year and this summer already about additional high schools that we hope to be bringing on and starting up new chapters in the fall. And sort of a nice exciting thing that's going to be happening in the fall is, fingers crossed, we should have our first middle school chapter starting in Utah.
Oh, wow. That's very nice. It's always been one of the things, and as you know, and I'll remind the listeners in case they've forgotten, I've previously been on the board for the Secular Student Alliance, and one of the several problems that exist with the organization is that local support, because religions have figured this out. They find a local church to be the sponsor for Fellowship of Christian Athletes to be in the high schools. We don't have that ready-built facility nearby, so I'm assuming high schools are hard to get started, and when one or two key students graduate, it's hard to keep them going. Has that been your experience?
It is a little bit. And so most of the high school groups operate as clubs on their campuses. And so for some schools, they have sort of elaborate processes and time-consuming processes for students to be able to start a group. And so that becomes a little bit of a challenge when, you have, younger students, and then sort of applied on that, where it may take a year to be able to start a group in some cases, because the regents will look over the groups petitioning to start in the summer. So it's a different timeline than working with a college or university. And I think largely for us is we have, sort of parents become highly involved in high school students and helping them get up and started. And even a little bit of the running. And we're definitely seeing that with the student who is planning on starting up a chapter as a middle school. So the parents become a lot more important in helping that organize.
Absolutely. Now, just in case I happen to have any listeners that are in high school, even junior high apparently, or college, and they contact the administrators and they say, no, you can't have an atheist or a secular or a non-religious club. Are they just done, or what should they do about that?
The easy thing is to contact us, and on our website we have it's starting a group, and there's a simple, really easy form that fills in as, hey, I'm interested in starting a group. One of our campus organizers will contact the student directly and sort of talk about their situation, talk about what they're wanting to do, and help them along with the process. And we've gotten pretty efficient at that. We can help a group get up and started in about a week, so that they're on and active, and then we provide a lot of resources. I think one of the things, if a student is having trouble with an administration and starting the group, that's being able to contact us, and then we can help with some sample letters that sort of show the administrator what the law really is. And then if that still doesn't work, and I think a lot of times that does, but if that still doesn't work, our friends at the Freedom for Religion Foundation have always been a great advocate for us. And usually it's a friendly letter or a friendly call from the attorneys over at FFRF. And that, I would say 99.9% of the problems, are cleaned up very easily with a nice attorney call from FFRF. So they've always been a great friend to us. And that usually solves things.
I could imagine.
So yeah, that usually works.
Now, do you know approximately how many chapters or members are in Secular Student Alliance local groups? What kind of information can you share on that?
Sure. We have about 275 chapters right now. And so just in January, February, and March of this calendar year, we added 30 new groups. And so we've seen some great growth with that already. So number of members is a little harder for us to determine because, all our organizations are different sizes. So, but we've seen this fall, we saw a lot of great growth. So one of our chapters in Missouri tripled in size. One of our groups in Texas had their first meeting in the fall and had a meeting room, and it wasn't big enough. So they had to go and request another meeting room, which then wasn't big enough. So they actually had to change rooms twice just to accommodate the people who are coming in. And our group over in Logan, Utah, is actually at 150 members now. So we saw some great internal growth with the number of students involved in our chapters, and then also some great growth and expansion in the number of chapters we just have across the United States. And so again, I think this fall we're looking for that to continue.
Now, of course, as we're talking, like I said, it's July of 2018. You just finished your annual conference. Is that correct?
We did. So last weekend was our conference, and we had it in Columbus, Ohio again this year, and had just a great bunch of students there that weekend. So lots of leadership development for them personally, and also them helping run their organizations, and then just some really great sessions on sort of secular identity and just working within the secular movement, and just really strengthening those bonds. And then, just sort of a little bit of how we put our values into action, and, what's important to us is sort of more the, humanistic values and how we put those into our life. So, really great weekend. Just fantastic meeting all of the students. And so last year I started with SSA about 2 weeks prior to our national convention last year. And so for me, just getting the chance to meet the students was just a wonderful opportunity. And it was, for me this year, it was great to watch our staff who've been working all year with the students, and this their first chance, and they've met them and going out and doing site visits across the United States and those sorts of things. But sort of that large scale, all the students in one place. So it is the largest gathering of secular students in the United States. But for them to watch them interact and see all the students and the sort of environment we create, and it's just was sort of wonderful. And one of the staff came up, and it was it's our second day of the conference and our first really full day. And he just walked up and he goes, "Our students are absolutely incredible." I go, "Yeah, I know. I had the same reaction last year." So it really is something special in being able to be together like that, and the space that we create, and then just that educational and leadership development opportunity for the students.
Well, that's fantastic. And of course, the bulk of the groups are college students. And if college students want to start a group, and assuming their university or college has no problem with them starting a group, is there still some kind of magical kit that they can get that kind of has everything? Is that what you were talking about before?
We do have information on our website. One is the form that students can fill out and saying, "Hey, I'd like to start an organization." And again, our campus organizers reach out and call them. And then we also have information that's very easy to download on our website. And so any student can go on and look at the information, and here's how you start a group with those sorts of things. So it's super easy to do that. And then we also there's lots of other resources that are available on our website for students, for advisors, and for parents and those sorts of things. So we try to provide easy downloadable resources on our website so the students get an idea of what to expect, opportunities for things and events to do on their campuses. So we try to provide that as an easy resource for students.
Sure. Now, you kind of almost segued into my next question. What do these groups actually do? Because people can go, "That's great that there's some things, Secular Student Alliance, and you've got all these groups." What's the nitty gritty? What does a group actually do? What does it provide for students?
And the student organizations, we recognize that almost all of our student organizations are different based on what school they're at, where they are in the country, rural or in a city, and just sort of, where they are. So our groups do a variety of things. Some of the groups, when they're first starting out, it really is a place to sort of come together and for secular, atheist, humanist, non-religious students to sort of meet each other and to have a community and to have that sort of space, safe place to sort of be together. And from there, they typically move on and start to have, they'll go and do little social events. They start to have discussions, how religion impacts their community, or they start sharing their experiences about how they sort of left religion. So it's, again, that sort of very community-based sort of point. And I think once our organizations get a little bit sort of bigger, they start to really do lots of different programs on campuses. And so actually, Southeast Missouri State University, our chapter there this year was the organization of the year. So just because they were so active on campus. And so it's a wonderful distinction to be recognized as the best organization on campus. And so they're involved in sort of, interfaith work and community service projects. We have a speakers bureau, and they brought several of the speakers from the bureau there to have campus-wide programs. And a big part of it is sort of making relationships with other student organizations on campus. And so, it's sort of bridging those gaps and normalizing sort of non-religion as sort of a viable option for students and those sorts of things, and for, a way for sort of secular people to live out those values in everyday life.
Yeah, my experience has been with the groups, like you said, a wide variety of things. You have anything from game night, where you just kind of hang out. You might meet in a pub, assuming everyone meets the legal age to enter and or drink if they choose to do so. And like you said, interfaith meetings where you might meet with Campus Crusade for Christ, or a Catholic group, or a Methodist group, Muslims, and then advocacy for a secular lifestyle that I think personally that we have the best view of the world because we can solve problems using our thinking skills and not relying on a 4,000-year-old text.
Exactly.
What else should we know about the Secular Student Alliance? What's the plans going forward?
Well, again, I think this summer we're really looking at sort of doing a lot of internal work. So we're adding more resources to our website, and really for us, it's preparing for the fall. So as we mentioned, we just finished our conference, and so the rest of the summer is all about the fall. So we are going to work with a couple of our partner organizations in sort of doing a tour in historically Black colleges and universities. So we recognize there are a lot of communities of color where religion is sort of very predominant in those communities. And so if you are non-religious, the stigma and the difficulty in sort of being non-religious is even harder. And so we're going to work with a few of our partners and actually go and do a tour and visit some of the different historically Black colleges and universities and try to help students start groups. So one, sort of starting that conversation. And again, this isn't okay. It's okay to be non-religious. And there are other people, especially people of color like you, who are non-religious and living very successful and meaningful lives. And then help them start groups that we have those supports and those sorts of things. So we'll be doing a big push this fall for that. Clearly politics, with the elections coming up in November, are going to be very important. And we are working with American Atheists and the Secular Coalition of America on doing a large voter registration and voter push this upcoming fall. So clearly, with the Secular Student Alliance, we're going to be sort of organizing and coordinating all the activities for the college community and getting that push going. And we really want people going out there and showing, hey, I'm a secular voter and I vote with my secular values. And so that we were looking forward to that this fall. And then I think the big thing for us is sort of expansion. So clearly that's hard to put a number on exactly how that's, how it's going to turn out. But with I think our outreach on social media and places where students are, we've gotten a lot better at that. And so we're really looking forward to a big push in this fall and sort of gearing up to getting a lot of new chapters started on college campuses across the country. So that will be a very exciting thing for us.
Excellent. And one of the things that I know, having been on the board in the past, and maybe listeners don't know this, one of the problems with Secular Student Alliance is the more students it serves, the more money it takes to do so. And the services are provided generally free of charge to the students. Maybe they pay $25 for a conference or something, but the more you help, the more money it takes. But the more you help, you don't get more money from the students. So it creates this, what do we call this, inverse scalable problem that the bigger you get, the harder it is to succeed because you don't have more money. So you and I have talked a little bit briefly about this, and we're going to let the listeners know at this time that Phil Ferguson, with money from Polaris Financial Planning, we're going to start a matching campaign. And this is kind of how it's going to work. And I think we're on the same page. So jump in if I get anything wrong. You are going to create a unique link that I will share at the end of the show because it's not ready at the time we're interviewing. So we're going to add it later. And people will be able to go there and sign up for monthly contributions. And the reason for not having a flat dollar amount is that your expenses are continuous. You don't need money necessarily today, but you need money ongoing month after month after month. And so people can pick whatever level they want. There'll probably be a few suggested levels. And there's probably going to be an other button where you can pick $100 a month or $5 a month or something like that. And what I'm going to do is we're going to promote this for 3 months, July, August, and September. And whatever my listeners or friends of my listeners, because I don't care where the link gets shared, how it gets shared, how people find it. The purpose is to raise money. If listeners and or their friends commit to donating money on a monthly basis, I will take whatever's committed on a monthly basis, multiply it by 12, calculating the approximate amount that might be brought in for a year, and then I will match that. Polaris Financial Planning will match that up to an amount that will become the highest donation that the business has ever given, up to $10,000. That all sound right?
That sounds, yes, that sounds right. And that's very generous. And we really appreciate you.
Well, you're very kind.
Doing that.
And I know it's not the biggest amount you've ever gotten, but what I wanted to do was drive many people donating $3, $5, $10, if they can, $20, $50, $100 a month, so that you can have this ongoing stream of money and not be so dependent on one or two big donors, so that the Secular Students Alliance has the money to help more students be successful, find friends, get leadership skills, because they're the future, man. They're going to change the world, and they're going to vote, and hopefully they can do a better job than us old people did.
No, true. And I think one thing that we do is there's a lot of quote unquote old people who have really done a lot to bring us to where we are. It's just as far as, the secular movement, and especially for students being able to sort of, identify and have sort of a much easier process. And of course we have those stories where, there are a lot of students who are still in difficult places, but we're very fortunate, I think, that we have a large number of donors who recognize that that secular youth and the secular, are sort of the future of the secular movement. And it's interesting that, you work in sort of investments and those sorts of things. And we talk about, continual basis. But when you donate to us, you're making an investment in the secular future. So it's the leadership skills, and it's the what we're doing with students now that really are how the secular movement is going to play out in the long run. And we're talking 5, 10, 15 years, and these are the people who are going to be working in our organizations, and they're going to be in businesses, and they're going to be in politics, and they're going to be one making decisions with their secular values. And so what we're doing now is extremely important, but it is an investment in the future. And so it's interesting that you work in investments, and that's how we continue to share our message is this is an investment in the future.
Oh, I agree. And I know from my personal experience, there's going to be people who are listening to the show that they're having trouble making their own ends meet. I get it. If you can't afford $1 or more a month, then, you can't. But I also know, because some of them have become clients, I have listeners that have real money, like seriously large amounts of money. And sometimes they wish that I had a Patreon page so they could donate to me. Well, thankfully for Phil, I don't need that money. So what we're going to do for the next 3 months is I'm going to promote the shit out of the Secular Student Alliance. Go sign up there. If you have some extra money, or if you only have a little bit of extra money and you're concerned that you can't speak out, you can't go and be publicly known as secular or as a nun or as a free thinker or an atheist, but you have a few dollars to spare, you can go give the money to students or the Secular Student Alliance that helps students that have energy and time but just don't have money. So right. Your money can empower them to use their energy and time to start making a difference now. And just like you said, I love this idea that the students are the investment, the students are the future. And the more students that feel comfortable being out and open and making friends and making connections and getting leadership skills and experience working with other groups of people, they are going to be business leaders. They are going to be politicians. They are going to be everything and anything in the future. And we need them to make that change. Definitely.
I always say if a secular future is important to you, then invest in the youth today. And that's sort of the really important part.
I assume the Secular Student Alliance budget is still a teeny weeny little fraction compared to the Campus Crusade for Christ.
Yes. We always say if you take Campus Crusade for Christ, Newman, and Hillel and put their budgets, their annual budgets together, you're talking it's roughly $1 billion. So it's a lot of money that we're sort of competing against. And I think you mentioned most of the services that we provide to students are free. So we do activity guides. The Speakers Bureau are people who are reducing their prices already for the students, and we help. They can also apply for grants if they need assistance in bringing speakers to their campus. If they are doing other programs, we provide funds for them to be able to do those programs on their campuses. And getting funds to do those sorts of things for our student organizations is typically very difficult. And when student governments, even on campuses, are sort of looking at, sort of your atheists, free thinkers, non-believers as like, why would we give money to you? We, for a large part, are their only source in having those programs. And that's the only sort of programs that are happening on the campus. So when you have 150 or 200 religious organizations on a college campus and one secular student alliance, we need to really make sure that we're amplifying that voice. And so I think we're one of the few secular organizations where our members are also not our donors and supporters. So it's, students have very little disposable income. And so it really is much, much important for our organization that, people who are in the secular community and professionals in the secular community are the ones that are supporting the students, because unfortunately it doesn't work the other way around at this point.
Absolutely. So listeners, if you can avoid one Starbucks coffee a month, right? I mean, you get a big one with ice cream and all this crap in it. That's probably not healthy for you anyway. You can afford $5 to $10. And I know I have listeners that can do $20 or $50 a month. So we're going to see what we can do over the 3 months, the rest of July, August, and September. We're going to take a look at that at the end of the month. These are you have to sign up for an ongoing contribution. And my intention is that you're going to honor that for at least a year and hopefully much, much longer. But the more you give, we're going to total up what that would be for a 12-month period. And then up to 10,000, I'm going to match it. So it's a quick way for the Secular Student Alliance to generate 10,000 over 12 months plus $10,000 right as we're getting into full swing of the fall semester. So I kind of see it as a win-win scenario, helping you in the long run and a little bit helping you right away this fall. Anything else about the Secular Student Alliance we should know, or how can someone contact you if they want to get more details about what you're doing?
Sure. I think the easiest thing for information, those sorts of things, is to check out our website at secularstudents.org. So there's, again, a lot of the information is on there. You can see where our chapters are. We have an interactive map that people can look in their area. And it's really easy to find some information about the student organizations. It's easy to start a student organization. You click a button, fill out a couple lines, and we're contacting you on that. And you can see the resources that we offer for students as well on our website. Our information is on there to contact us and send us any of our staff emails, things that you're interested in. So that's probably the easiest place is secularstudents.org and sort of finding that information. I would love to share, coming from our conference, and sort of we had a couple of stories, and I think we always sort of get them around conference time of working with our students. And so last year, we had one student who, we have the entire weekend together, and it's sort of this sort of special environment that we create. And again, it's the only gathering of secular students like this anywhere in the United States. And we had one student so we've concluded the conference, and she went out to her car and sat in her car for an hour because she didn't want to drive home, because she knew that her family wasn't supportive, and she lived in a very conservative area. And so she didn't want to go home after the weekend that she just had. And that, I think, speaks to sort of the environment that we create and how special that is. This year we had a student come down, register for the conference, and her parents knew that she was atheist, but then they found out that she was at our conference. And so they got in their car on Friday. Our conference is Friday, Saturday, Sunday. They got in their car on Friday and drove 6 hours from Canada because they were worried about what she was doing and what was happening this weekend and those sorts of things. And so they came and registered for the conference, and we sort of talked to them. The parents said, "Yes, please, participate in the whole conference, ask questions, go to the sessions, see what your daughter's involved in, and what she's doing." And I kept checking in with them as the conference went along, and they were hearing the messages about doing community service and living out your secular values, and about equality, and about sort of humanistic values. And at the end, they were not, and I think, it's a big place to go, but not fully in love with the idea that their daughter, doesn't believe in religion anymore. But I think feeling much, much more comfortable about where she is as a human being and about the values that she gets to live out in her life and those sorts of things. So there's lots of examples like that every year of stories we hear from students, interactions with their families, and sort of the special place that the Secular Student Alliance really creates in their lives, especially when they're so young.
Oh, that is amazing. And of course, you and I can talk after the interview. Maybe you can connect me with a few students that can share their personal stories so we can make this more tangible for the listeners. But for now, of course, you had the great conference. I assume you'll have at least one conference next year. You have them every year.
We will. Next year is going to be in mid-July, and it's going to be at the USC campus in Los Angeles.
Excellent. Yeah, I was kind of wondering when the conference will eventually switch or split, because a few years ago there was two. There was a California and an Ohio one. But I'm looking forward to going. And if someone's listening and wants to go to one of these conferences, but they're not a student, can they be like those parents? Hopefully cooler than those parents, but can they show up and go?
Of course. Yeah. Our conferences are, are geared towards, clearly geared towards students and that, but we really have different, we offer a variety of sessions. And so every year we have, a number of non-students, and alumni from SSA who come to the conference and I think really enjoy the sessions and enjoy what we're doing. So, this year we had, one of our keynoters was Heather Boleyn, neuroscientist, and her talking about the brain and the way it works and how much we are actually perceiving based on what we're consciously, was just incredible. So we really try to look at, I think, getting different perspectives and different people that you might not normally see at another conference. So I think there's lots to do if you're not a student, and a lot to gain from the conference as well.
Excellent. So listeners, hang on to the end of the show. I'll throw in the link that you can go and donate, give as much as you can, maybe give a little bit more than you can. I don't know. Just make yourself feel happy. Give enough to feel happy about it. Kevin, thank you so much for your time and all the work that you and many volunteers and other staff members do. And I can't wait to talk to a few of the students to have them share their stories. I really am a longtime fan of the Secular Student Alliance and appreciate the work that you and so many other people do.
Well, and thank you very much. And we'll definitely make this connection. If it wasn't for the people in the community who supported us, we couldn't do what we do. And everything we do is for the students. So thank you for doing this for us and for our other donors who support us, and hopefully our new donors who will be coming to us because of what you're doing today.
Great, Kevin. Thank you for being on the Phil Ferguson Show.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
A lot of people come up here and they thank Jesus for this award. I want you to know that no one had less to do with this award than Jesus. He didn't help me a bit. If it was up to him, Caesar Milan would be up here with that damn dog. So all I can say is, suck it, Jesus. This award is my God now.
You're listening to The Phil Ferguson Show.
It's time to wrap up the show. I've got a couple of reviews because I didn't do them last week. I was hoping this show would be shorter, but things came up. So the show ended up being long, and I have reviews to read. So one on Stitcher from about 2 weeks ago, and this is from Aviator 0023, one of my favorite podcasts. Hey, short, sweet, to the point. And now on to iTunes. I have 3 reviews here. The first one is by Orestes M. I think that's how you pronounce it. I think I actually know who that is. 5-star review at the very end of June. I thought I knew a lot about investing, but I didn't seem to know the simplest and most basic fact about the market beating out just about anything else in the long run. This alone is worth the time to listen to this podcast. Phil is genuinely interested in helping people and has been kind enough to give me advice over email and via the phone over the years. I wish I could have learned this stuff when I was 20. Thank you for that very kind review. The next one we have is by Kane JO46, and this one is a little bit longer, so let me see if I can get through this. Phil, being an atheist and a retired Marine do not always go well together. I find your podcast to be both entertaining and provides sound financial advice. I made contact with Zarnowski Consulting after listening to him on your podcast and received an incredible amount of valuable information. Just by the way, that was several weeks ago. We had a special episode on Social Security, and it's complicated and there's a lot to know. So go check out that episode. The third review here is by Jeremy X. Beware, this podcast may make you angry with yourself for your past financial mistakes, but Phil also provides ideas on how you might fix those errors. His disclaimer may read, don't take financial advice from a podcast, but topics encourage you to examine your financial plan, what you own, and seek improvement. As a bonus, his interviews on skepticism are great as well. Finally, he encourages listener interaction. So if you have a question or suggested show topic, email him. Well, thank you, Jeremy X. I appreciate those kind words. And now I'm going to get to the link for the Secular Student Alliance. And it's a bit.ly link. So I think if you type in this shorter thing I'm going to give you, it'll work. But then you may have to type in something a little longer. So let me give you the short version. I'll try to put the link in the show notes at Spreaker. I also put it on the Phil Ferguson Facebook page so that you can see it there. I'll put the full link. Hopefully you can just click on it. And this link is not limited only to listeners of the show. I encourage you to share it far and wide. Of course, if people want to listen to the show, that's great. But I don't care how the Secular Student Alliance gets money. I want them to get money. And so you have to go to this specific link for it to count. You have to sign up for monthly contributions. And let's give an example. Say you give $10 a month. So for an entire year, that would count as $120. I will match your $120 with a one-time donation from Polaris Financial Planning and Phil Ferguson to the Secular Student Alliance of $120. I will do that when the campaign is over. It's going to go through July, August, and September. So early in October, I'll get the total damage. Hopefully it's $10,000 or more, and I will match up to $10,000 based on what your contribution would be worth over 12 months. So you get 12 months to pay it. Hopefully you want to keep contributing $5, $10, $20, $50, $100 a month to the Secular Student Alliance. But whatever you give or whatever you commit to give over the next 12 months is what I'm going to match. No, there's nothing stopping you from signing up and then turning it off and only giving 1 month. That's not the point. Please don't be a douche. But anyway, that's what I'm going to do. So here is the link. It is bit.ly/Phil matches. And I think you have to put a capital T for Phil. Capital T, capital P. Can't spell my own fucking name. Capital P for Phil and a capital M for matches. That may not be the case. That's how I got it to work. So the website is bit.ly/capital P HIL capital MATCHES. Phil matches. If that doesn't work for whatever reason, you can throw in front of it http:// and then bit.ly/Phil matches with a capital P and a capital M for Phil and matches. So check that out. Go give some money. They're supposed to give me a weekly update, so I'll talk about it on a regular basis on the show. And hopefully in less than 3 months, and even sooner is better, we can get $10,000 to come in over a period of 12 months and another $10,000 from Phil/Polaris Financial Planning, part of my ongoing plan to contribute 10% of Polaris's gross revenue to supporting the secular movement. Not everything that I do you know about, but the one I did earlier this year, we raised $6,000 for American Atheists. And of course, they got 200 extra members. But this is going to the Secular Student Alliance, one of my favorite places. You give $10,000, I'll give $10,000. The Secular Student Alliance gets $20,000. So hopefully you can help out with that. If you can't contribute, you don't have the money, I get it. Share the link, share the podcast, tell your friends about it, and maybe they can improve their investments like some of the other listeners have talked about. I am happy to help. I'm happy to see you in person. I'll be at CSI Con in Vegas in late October, and then the Freedom from Religion Foundation Conference 2 weeks later, early November in San Francisco. If you go to one of those, please stop by, find me, say hello. I look forward to seeing you. Until then, ciao.